I don't think it's news to anyone at this point that Star Wars as a living, viable franchise is dead. And honestly, I'm okay with that. If there's one sorta good thing to come from the whole Disney debacle, it's the realization that franchises shouldn't be immortal. We shouldn't try to keep them alive forever, draining whatever vitality they have left, too afraid to create something new. Star Wars itself was new at one time, believe it or not. It didn't begin life as the cultural phenomenon it became. In fact, it began life as a Flash Gordon movie, but when George Lucas couldn't get the rights to Flash Gordon, he changed some names, swapped some things around, and made history. But nothing lasts forever, and maybe we shouldn't expect it to. Instead of trying to keep the actual thing alive, in this case the Star Wars franchise, maybe we're meant instead to keep alive the lessons that it taught us and the love that we have for it, and put those into a new thing that we create, thus keeping alive the spirit and the legacy of the original thing. I mean, that's what we've done since the beginning of time. This Forever franchise thing, he's the new kid on the block, and frankly, I'm ready for his ass to move out. I'm done. And that brings me to today's subject, Aladdin 3477, The Djinn of Wisdom. A new indie sci-fi action-adventure film that brings something fresh and new to the table, while proudly wearing its reverence for its inspirations on its sleeve. Aladdin 3477 is exactly what its name suggests. It's the story of Aladdin from the Arabian Nights, set in the year 3477. Aladdin is a thief eking out a living in the streets of Hong Kong who dreams of a better life off those streets. Literally, as in off the actual ground. He wants to marry a princess and live in one of the floating cities that drifts around the earth. He meets a shady character who promises to help him achieve his dreams, if Aladdin will help him obtain the lamp of the Djinn of Wisdom. The two strike a deal and soon set off to obtain the mysterious treasure. Meanwhile, the beautiful Princess Kamala seeks to escape the confines of her father's floating palace and experience a world she's only ever glimpsed from afar. But a mysterious being has set his sights on Kamala and has gained her unwitting father's trust by finding and returning the stray princess and presenting himself as something that he isn't. But who is the man who's seeking the lamp, and what are his true intentions for Aladdin? Who is the mute woman following Aladdin around? And who or what is the enigmatic figure stalking Princess Kamala, and what are his plans for the throne of India? Now, right off the bat, this is a low-budget indie flick, and right off that same bat, I dug the hell out of it. I found out about it while listening to an interview with the director, Matt Bush, over on the Film Threat channel. As soon as the words practical effects and kitbash props left Mr. Bush's lips, I was in. And boy, it delivers on that front. The props, sets, and costumes in this movie are fantastic and give the movie that high-tech but well-worn look straight from Star Wars and Blade Runner. Yeah, this movie proudly flaunts its reverence for its influences. You got some Star Wars, some Blade Runner, I picked up a little Cowboy Bebop, Ghost in the Shell, Firefly, and there's even a little nod here and there to Indiana Jones. I heard that Wilhelm scream. Some of the robots look like mashups between Star Wars clone troopers, the ultra-glossy real steel robots, and some of the miniatures from the Infinity tabletop game. I'm not saying that's where their look comes from, but it's what they made me think of. Visually, this movie is a prop junkie's dream. Everything is clearly DIY and looks great. The costumes look like Neo Tokyo and the Mos Eisley Cantina smashed head-on into each other. The sets have that vibrant, claustrophobic night market look from Blade Runner, but what's with all the slop hoses? What real-world purpose do those things serve? The props are kit-bashed marvels with lots of really cool robots, guns, and ships. Some standouts are the magic carpet, aka Sky Sail, the six-armed Darshana, and the flying Taj Mahal. All of those are excellent, as are all the little robots. I especially like the goofy sewer snake bot. If, like me, you love looking at props and seeing if you can recognize what they're made from, then welcome to paradise. Tone-wise, this is a light-hearted action-adventure. It never takes itself too seriously. It reminds me heavily of those sci-fi fantasy action-adventure shows from the 90s like Hercules and Xena, Briscoe County Jr., and Cleopatra 2525. Remember that one? Now that's not a bad thing, I love those shows. But you know how Hercules and Xena kind of started in the same place, and then somewhere along the way they diverged, with Xena becoming more serious and Hercules embracing its silliness? Aladdin 3477 follows Hercules' approach. It has some more serious moments, but on the whole keeps everything pretty light and fun. Even the kills are mostly played for giggles, something that should satisfy all you psychos out there. The performances range from adequate to pretty good. No one here's gonna win an Oscar, but everyone's taking their job seriously, which isn't always the case in low-budget movies. Not that I haven't seen my share of phoned-in performances from big Hollywood names. Looking at you, late-career Robert De Niro. Low-budget movies have a smaller margin for error. General audiences, that's normies, tend to be a lot less forgiving, since there's no big shining movie stars or billion-dollar effects budgets to smooth over things like bad performances. You already have the stigma of low budget attached to you, which a lot of normies automatically equate to low quality. So everything and everyone has to be as completely dialed in as possible if the movie's going to be given anything resembling a fair shake, and I'd say the actors do a fine job. The writing is generally pretty good, with a lot of the jokes and slapstick being genuinely funny. The story's entertaining, the characters you're supposed to like are likable, the ones you're not supposed to like are likable in that unlikable way like a good villain ought to be. Nobody thinks Jabba the Hutt is a good guy, but we still like him because he's a great villain. Where the movie stumbles is the pacing. Some scenes, particularly the action scenes, go on too long and wind up dragging. The action itself is good and fun and well executed, it just goes a little too far beyond the point of needing to move on with the story. I will give kudos though for actually choreographing the fights. Man, I've seen some terrible fights where the actors were clearly just told to make it up as they go, and it never works. You can ad-lib dialogue, but I've never seen a good ad-libbed fight. Going that extra mile to plan out your fights isn't just a good idea, it's required. There's also a joke involving rap that would have been a lot funnier if it were cut off sooner. Comedy is timing, and part of timing is knowing when to end the joke. All in all, Aladdin 3477, The Djinn of Wisdom, is a good time. Is it perfect? No. Does it have some rough spots? Yup. But it's an ambitious labor of love, and you can tell everyone involved put their whole ass into it. It's exactly what I want from Star Wars going forward. Not more Star Wars, but more bold new movies being created by the people who love Star Wars and see it as an inspiration rather than a cash cow to be cynically milked beyond death. Also, speaking of Star Wars, none other than Chewbacca himself, Peter Mayhew, is a producer on this film. Too cool for school, baby. It's a phenomenal high-concept, low-budget indie flick that shows you just how creative people can actually be when they don't have the option to fix it in post or do infinite reshoots. When you don't have a ton of cash, you gotta cut the bullshit and get creative, and that's what I love about low-budget indies. It might be a little too lighthearted for some, but if you, like me, have fond memories of tuning into the Hercules Xena Power Hour or the myriad shows those two spawned, then you will definitely get a kick out of this one. It's also part of a trilogy, and based on this, I will definitely be there for the sequels. Aladdin 3477, The Djinn of Wisdom. Dig it. It's available on video on demand. I got it right here on YouTube. So throw a couple bucks at it and support a great little indie film. Thank you so much for watching. Adios.